folks, and welcome to Subjective Thoughts. And our comic for today is Serpent in the Garden, Ed Grey and the Last Battle for England, Issue 2 by Dark Horse. Now, there is some fighting, a bit of violence, and magic in this one, so if you are in any way squeamish, you have been warned. Also, spoilers. Alright, here's the team. So, when we left off in issue 1, Sir Edward Grey was turned into sort of like Swamp Thing or Plant Man to fight the last battle for England. It was in Avalon with his wife. And now he had to fight for Queen Alice. A little baby from one of the Hellboy stories. No, not the Hanging Corpse. What was it? I forgot the title. But anyway, that's how issue 1 ended. Now here we start with Pigman over here, or the little the fairy guy that's now Pigman. So the Pig Demon Man, he tells the little fish that was in the fountain, the little fish that is the good side of Morgan Le Fay. And the little fish, he tells him, well, I told you my story, why don't you tell me yours? So here we learned who Pig Demon Man was before. Like before he was that little fairy. So back in, I suppose, really old times, he looks very much like an elf. So I think he used to be an elf. Say he had power. He fought in wars along sons of the king. He had great power. He could turn into monsters as well. And then that's how he would fight. And he had love. He had a lady. And one day, his lady asked him to turn into one of the monsters. And he said, no, you will be frightened. For some reason, if she screamed, if she was frightened by him, he would disappear. He can't remember why. But he turned into the monster to show her. And she didn't scream, but she was frightened. So then he turned into a bird to calm her down. But he didn't see the cat that was in the bushes. And she screamed just to warn him, but it didn't matter. It was too late. He disappeared. It's interesting why he disappeared because of that. Let me check. Just a second. Okay. And then for a long time, he was walking in darkness, and you can see he was no longer the handsome elf that he used to be. He barely had hair on his head, and he was all, wrinkled out and skinny, and just walking there until he was called to pretend to be little Alice. And she was a baby, so she could be replaced and taken to the fairies. And then he met Hellboy, and Hellboy burned him with iron, and then he decided to get revenge by arousing this last of its kind giant monster, the big pig monster Hellboy fights. Or boar. I guess boar is more accurate, because he has tusks. And that didn't end well for him, because the boar grabbed him and ate him. And I suppose somehow he now became the monster, or took over it. Anyway, Hellboy in that story defeats the monster and tells it to get lost. So that was his story, and then after that he traveled. He began serving a witch that was in a box, and he asked her if she could turn him to what he used to be. And then she looked angry, and he said, oh, you don't have enough power. And that made her even more mad. And she slapped him off a hill, or off a cliff. And then he met some other warlock that cursed him with the immortality. and that he'll forever roam until the end of days. And then yeah, and then he saw, I think, because of he took the heart from his people. And you see, I guess, other elves bleeding on the floor. Maybe his parents, perhaps. I don't know. And then after that, the little fish tells them, "Oh, it's not so bad to have immortality." And he said, "I would just like one day to be what I used to be." And then the Queen Morgan Le Fay arrives, and she said, "Then you are ready." And she's holding what do you call it? A gullet? No, not a gullet. Goblet. A goblet full of her blood. And then she draws a symbol on Pig Demon's head, and she said, "Now I will, you will now go." And he starts to change, to turn. He becomes bigger, and now he's kind of like it's a little like a big orc, maybe, but not as ugly. And he says, "I'm not what I used to be." And she said, "You're that and so much more than that." And then she gives him a sword. It's the sword of Mordred, the one that killed Arthur. So that city starts to vanish. He said, "Go." Oh, what does she tell him? Let me look. Okay. Yeah, the sword. From my kingdom. And he says, "My queen." And I forgot, the little fish tells him goodbye. And then he just disappears. I guess the queen sends him to where he needs to go. Okay. Right, and then we go to Sir Edward Grey and Queen Alice. He's now turned, and she said, "All right, you will go to the you'll now go." And she gives him a sword, and he's like, "Is this Excalibur?" I say, "Yeah." I said, "That's Excalibur," and she said, "No, that sword has long gone out into the ages. This is the first sword that's been created in Avalon since, and hopefully the last one." She hopes there'll be no more wars, I take it. "Well, that's it," she said. You're all ready. Go." So he takes the sword and starts marching on. And then a young woman that's with Queen Alice, Queen Alice says, "I would go with him if I could. I would go instead of him. But as a queen, I sacrificed quite a lot, and there's things I can't do anymore." And then the young woman, she has a raven on her shoulder, says, "You've you've earned." No, she said, "You have the crown." And Alice says, "Only because someone left it for her." And the young woman with the raven says, "From all I know that you've earned it." And then Alice says, all determined and angry, "And I'm not going to surrender it, especially not to her, to the queen." And then Sir Edward Grey keeps going, and then the Pig Demon guy appears. Like, well, what an entrance! Even one of her entourage of the Queen Alice even says. So he and Pig Demon guy and Sir Edward Grey begin to fight, clashing their swords. Before they start, though, Sir Edward Grey said, you can go. Just leave now, and I'll show you mercy." And Pig Demon guy said, "Even if I could, I can't. Even if I wanted to, I can't go back." And so they begin to fight. Um, now they know each other, and as they're fighting, and Pig Demon guy manages to injure Sir Edward Grey. They talk about the King of Fairies, the one that's in that story where Hellboy saves little Alice from the fairies. And he tells him, "I used to serve him, now I serve the queen." And Sir Edward Grey knew this king. He was with him, actually. He says, I knew him. He was a good king. And he tells him, like, how the mighty have fallen. He tells, he tells Pig Demon Guy. And then he, manages to knock him. The Sir Edward Grey manages to knock him off. And he falls, and the queen is seeing all this. She's sitting at a table, and she has like big chess pieces, one of Sir Edward Grey, and one of the Pig Demon Guy in his current form. And she said, when she's all angry, like, when is he going to do it? And I think it's Death that's with her there in the room, the kind of priest guy. I think that was Death. So Death says patience. And then Sir Edward Grey tells him, one moment. Oh yeah, and I thought alongside the king and his sons. Ah, okay, so those are the sons of the fairy king then. So are they fairies or what? Okay, anyway, there we go. I said I'd give you one chance, and the answer is save your mercy plant. Then you see Morgan Le Fay smile, and then I have no need of it. And he like turns into his pig demon version, but like massive, like how the creature that he unleashed on Hellboy is big as that. And then like the last panel, you see Sir Edward Grey's wife say, "Come back to me, Edward." And that's it. That's how the second issue ends. Alright, so first we have the cover. Very cool. You see Big Demon Guy all angry like. And again, we have this crown. That's the crown that Queen Alice has on her head. I wonder where that story is, because I'd love to read it. So yeah, very ominous with all the red. You got a bit of breaking of that with the crown. Oops, sorry. Drop that. Alright, let me show you the art. Ah, shit. Comics are flying. Okay, there we go. So that's Morgan Le Fay there. That's, you see, the little fish. And this is what Pig Demon Guy used to look like. You see the elf over here. At least he looks like an elf, doesn't he? More than a fairy, I would say, but who knows? This is a different version, probably. So there we got some fighting, you see. And then there's the lady love of Pig Demon Guy. A little fish is so cute. And you see, he turned into one of those monsters, but then he turned into this little bird to calm her down. Then there's the cat. So the art style is of course, I think the same artist. You see, it's very Manola-like, but it's not Mike Manola. I like that the artist tried to mimic the style somewhat. Okay, so that was the art. So the story is progressing. It's gonna be another little short one, obviously. And a shame, because everything here seems very interesting, like from this whole war to Avalon, because for what it said in the first issue, the world was destroyed. So it brings the question of, so that's it, only Avalon exists? Does that mean humanity is extinct? Or just the whole world's in ruins, but humans are still around? Can they get into Avalon? And how did Sir Edward Grey reach Avalon? I wonder where that story is, how this all came to be. I'd love to read it, because I really would like to find out, as it's, of course, is always very interesting. But so far, the action's good. The story is interesting. It's definitely Mike Manola's writing style, with some of the comments the characters are making. And I think in the first one, Sarah Edward Grey say, no, I don't think he did. But yeah, there's definitely that style. I'm really enjoying this. I look forward to see what the last issue is gonna be. Who's gonna win? Pig Demon Guy or Sarah Edward Grey? And what does it mean? What's gonna be his fate? And even though he was an asshole in that story, the what was it? The hanging corpse, maybe. Even though he was an asshole, it's still kind of sad when he tells the story because he even cries. And it is sad when you think about it. He used to have so much, and now he's reduced to this. And he just wants to go back to being what he used to be. And, well, how is he going to? And so he pledged allegiance to Morgan Le Fay, saying she needs to be the queen. But, well, I guess I don't really know much about Alice or Morgan Le Fay here as queens. And what's going to happen. I get the feeling Morgan Le Fay shouldn't be allowed to be the Queen of Avalon. I get that feeling, and I want to know where Alice got her crown. It's very interesting because you see, it has kind of like theater masks almost, and I wonder why it's designed like that. It seems like it must have meaning to it, right? Why masks? Why all these faces above? It just all seems very interesting. But yeah, that is it. I will now wait patiently for issue number 3, and I look forward to see how this concludes. So let me know if you've read issue 2 of Serpent in the Garden. One thing I will say, I think this title is too fucking long. And I wonder why Serpent, because thus far, there wasn't even one snake here. Unless maybe it's like, has meaning to it. There's not gonna be a serpent, but is some kind of meaning. But still, too long of a title. I think it should just been one or the other. But anyway, let me know what you thought of issue 2, and that is it. Remember, collect what you're passionate about and share it on YouTube. Bye!